Hey, everybody, and welcome to Your Next, the podcast for founders who are ready to trade achievement for alignment and discover who they are beyond the exit. I'm your host, Jerome, and today I want to open up the conversation with something raw and real, a truth I see more often than I wish I did. Some of the most impressive, successful founders I meet come to me ready to begin their journey. They've built an incredible business. They've achieved what most only dream of. And yet, right when they're ready to step into their next, they disappear. Not because the numbers don't work, not because the timing isn't right, but because something deeper kicks in. Fear, but not fear of failure, fear of being seen. Many times when people sit down with me, they have fooled everybody else. And they know within a few minutes that they can't hide from me. See, this is the hidden side of the founder's exit paradox. And I've been in that space with so many different people. I know all of the common signs. It's the moment when the deal is done, the title is gone, and there's only one question left. Who am I without this? And for many, the question is too confronting to face. So they retreat quietly, respectfully, and often regretfully. In today's episode, we're going to talk about what's really happening in these moments, why some founders pull back right at the edge of transformation, and why the fear of visibility, the fear of being seen, is often the biggest barrier to building the life they actually want. So let's get into it. When a founder backs away from doing this work, it usually doesn't sound dramatic. It sounds reasonable. It's not the right time. I need to think about it. I've got too much going on. Or my personal favorite, this all makes sense. I'm just not ready. And listen, I'm not here to shame those responses. I've said them myself from time to time, but I also know what's underneath them, a subtle, insidious form of fear, a fear that doesn't show up in the boardroom or the deal room, but it hits hard in the quiet, when no one's watching, when there's no full calendar of obligations to hide behind. That's when the real gets real. And for many of the founders I speak with, real is terrifying. See, in the red pill model, it's all about waking up. It's about confronting the illusions, especially the ones you've built around yourself. And one of the biggest illusions that stays buried when you're busy and you pretend that you're fulfilled, when you're building that successful business and you think you've already built a successful life, but when things get quiet, when the illusion starts to crack, the mind looks for the nearest exit. The brain doesn't want transformation, it wants comfort. So instead of stepping forward, founders step back. They rationalize, they delay. They distract themselves with the next investment, the next advisory board, the next shiny object. But let's be honest, none of that is really about what's next for them. It's about hiding from what's now. And that's the real tragedy. Many of them don't realize they're running because no one ever taught them to spot that pattern. They're winning at business, but silently losing the war within. So why do we hide? Why do founders hide? We've led teams, we've taken risks, we've weathered the storm, but suddenly we shrink when it's time to turn inward. It's simple. We've built our armor out of achievement. And over time, that armor starts to feel like identity. Let me say it again. The titles, the accolades, the success, they're not just results. They become who we think we are. We're the CEO, we're the closer, the one who always figures it out. And the world rewards us for it. You're respected, you're needed, you're celebrated, you're compensated. But here's the problem. All of that performance can be a shield, a way to avoid the deeper questions like, what do I want if no one's watching? Who am I when I'm not producing, solving, or leading? Am I proud of the person I've become or just the resume I've built? These questions don't shake your business model, they shake your self model. They dig into your self image. And that's the core of the founder's exit paradox. You exit the business, but you don't know who you are. You don't know your exit persona. So you cling to it or you disappear. I've seen founders who could raise 8 figures in a week, but couldn't look their spouse in the eyes and say, I feel lost. I've seen people who could pitch to a board of directors without flinching, but break down when they say, I don't know what I'm passionate about anymore. And you know why? Because being seen means being honest, first with yourself. And remember, when you pop that red pill, we're only offering you the truth. And if you go on years hiding behind productivity and pretending that everything's fine, that honesty can feel like an emotional whiplash. But here's what's wild. Most of the time, the thing we're scared people will see isn't something broken. It's something true. It's something powerful. It's something real. And when you stop hiding from it, you start leading from it. That's the work. That's the transformation. That's the portal to what's next. So let's clear something up. When I say being seen, I don't mean like you tell your life story on LinkedIn. I'm not talking about public vulnerability or making your exit into a performance. Being seen means letting go of the version of yourself you curated for survival and stepping into the version that's aligned for significance. It means allowing your real values, not your marketplace values, to take center stage. It means letting go of the highlight reel and reconnecting with the real truths about who you are, what you want, and why you're here. See, legacy doesn't come from playing a role. It comes from embodying a purpose. And that's the work we do at Exit to Excellence. We don't just look at your liquidity strategy, we look at your life strategy. We don't just prepare for business for the buyer, we prepare you for what comes after. And every time, the work starts with the mirror. Sometimes the mirror reveals grief. Sometimes it shows untapped passion. Sometimes it forces you to admit that everything you built was never really for you. And that's heavy, but that's real. And that's what being seen gives you access to. Freedom, alignment, peace, power, clarity, and confidence. Because when you're no longer hiding behind what you do, you can finally explore who you are. And when that exploration is guided, intentionally, strategically, that's when you begin to build a life that's worth more than any business you'll ever exit. That's how you exit to excellence. Not with more noise, not with more truth, not with more noise, but with more truth. Let me tell you about someone I'll call David. He reached out to me after hearing a podcast. CEO, 8-figure exit, charismatic, sharp, a textbook high performer, or apex performer as we like to call him. He told me, I should be happy. Everything went right with the deal. I feel completely untethered. I'm floating at sea. I'm lost. So we set up a time to talk. I asked questions. He answered. We went deep fast. You know I don't spend much time on the surface. And at the end of the call, he paused. He said, this is exactly what I need, but I need to think about it a bit first. I followed up, and you guessed it, he ghosted me. Never said no, never said yes, just disappeared. I wasn't surprised. The closer we got to the truth, the more his fear took over. Not fear of me, not fear of the work, but fear of who he might become once the armor was off. You know, during that call, he said, I've told you things I've not told anybody else. I realized that I've got unresolved anger. I realized that there are people who hurt me and I don't know how to repair or fix those relationships. And because David, like so many founders, have built their entire life around being known for something, not being known by someone, especially not by himself. And without that identity to move forward with, the identity of the successful CEO, the apex performer, he was stuck in the quicksand of the founder's exit paradox. And today, I hear updates from time to time letting me know that he's still trapped there. Now, not everybody takes that path. Let me tell you about someone else. We'll call her Erica. She exited a highly visible company. Think headlines, recognitions, and awards. Everyone saw her as the brand, the fixer, the one that made it go. But what no one saw was how lonely she felt when the lights went out. She told me, I've been public facing for a long time. I'm not even sure who I am without a platform. But here's the thing. She stayed. She sat in discomfort. She let herself cry in our second session. And she kept going. And today, she's living in a new city by choice. She's writing a book, not for status, but for healing. She mentored women founders and spending time with her daughter every weekend. She finally stopped measuring her worth in metrics and started measuring it in meaning. Same success, same initial fear, but a completely different outcome. Why? Because Erica was bold enough to choose to be seen. I think the second most powerful phrase in the English language is I choose. Whether you're actively choosing or passively choosing, just know that you're choosing. And I want to say this plainly for anyone listening right now. The transformation doesn't come from having the answers. It comes from having the courage to look, to do honest self-reflection. If you're still with me right now, and there's something stirring inside you, I want you to hear this. You don't have to keep hiding. You don't have to keep performing. You don't have to keep pretending that building the business was the final destination. I know for a fact that it wasn't. It was a chapter, an important one, but not the most important one, and certainly not the last one. And if you've been feeling that whisper, that ache that says, there's more for me, but I don't know what it is, you're not broken. You're not even lost. You're just in transition. You're in the in-between. You're in the paradox. And this is your invitation to walk through the portal, not into chaos, but into clarity, not into exposure, but into alignment. The next assessment is a starting point. It's not therapy. It's not a personality test. It's a mirror, one that helps you see who you are and who you could be if you stop letting fear run the show. This isn't about hustle. This is about wholeness. So if you're ready to stop hiding, even just a little, take the first step. You know where to find me. Because your dreams should be real. And they start when you let yourself be seen. I really appreciate you joining me for this episode of Your Next. To all our listeners, I end this one differently than I end all the other ones. Your next is the thing that's required for other people to find their space. You've been placed on this planet to be of service. And if you're not serving the people who you've been placed to serve, those folks will be stuck. They will have unnecessary suffering. And I implore you to take action today so that you can find your tribe and be the shepherd of those folks and guide them to the place that they need to be, because they're not going to make it without you. Till the next time.